Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. A good topic for you today, an interesting one. Let's do it. Serious. Psychics of Reddit. Do you knowingly scam your clients, or do you genuinely believe that you're gifted? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.
I did an AMA that may be of interest to you. I'm not working as a psychic anymore and haven't consistently in about 3 years for the record, but the industry remains virtually the same. I actually sincerely believe most clients know it isn't real and are looking for people to talk to that are supportive or reassuring and will make them feel better, even if it's just entertainment. There are 3 basic types of psychics. The believers. These are usually the worst psychics by far. I saw many of them firsthand in online video chat rooms at this network I worked at, where we would take free questions and chats to solicit clients to purchase pay readings, and this other membership-based site where a psychic was on staff 24/7 in chat rooms taking questions from clients. They had a tendency to rely really heavily on whatever divination method they were excited about, and whatever kick they were on, tarot cards, stones, runes, etc., often to a client's confusion or dismay. They pulled things from places they thought were real, and all would get fixated on something. How does Steve feel about me? I get mixed signals. Psychic responds with, I see a black raven. Another example from my recollection, but this actually happened. A client asks the psychic how to approach this guy from work she has a crush on. He tells her they are soulmates and meant to be together because in the Civil War they fell in love in their past lives. She was a nurse and he was a soldier, and he tells this story for about 30 minutes about the soldier and the nurse and the eternal bond and all that death. The client wants some practical advice on how to proceed with someone she's a bit nervous or insecure about, approaching a guy she likes, and she gets a weird story about the Civil War and is told to burn sage to ward off evil energies. The client isn't really helped or particularly happy. That said, some clients, a small number, want the crazy stuff and love these guys. These types of psychics were often kind of trashy and came off as uneducated, smoking and pounding beers back while taking clients on video chat, for example. This is the minority in my experience, maybe 20% or so, and they're not usually overly successful in the long term. The exploiters, or the Sylvia Browns. These psychics prey on human vulnerability with malice, only to make money. They'll pretend to get messages from your dead grandma to pull at your heartstrings to get you to buy more services and manipulate people to become dependent on them. They may perform exploitative, fear-driven services, cleansing cursed money, cleansing curses, getting rid of ghosts and evil energies they make up, and prey on cultural superstitions. They don't care about clients at all, and the service is really just about getting as much money as possible for the least effort possible. If a client has an unhealthy dependence on the psychic, and the purchasing of services is harming them, the psychic will keep that client going right into bankruptcy. They don't care. These people commit obvious fraud, lie about curses or voodoo, claiming only they can cure it with some insane ceremony that will cost gobs of money that they never even actually do and hurt people. In my experience, these people are maybe around 30% of the whole, but many of the better known and celebrity psychics are like this. The everybody else. Many people working in the psychic field are kind of normal people who may be pretty emotionally intelligent, naturally adept at cold reading, or just really desperate people who found one of the very few independent work-from-home sources of income that a person with limited education and capacity to leave the house can engage in and be successful. I was one of these. Single mom and stay-at-home moms often get into the industry trying to supplement their income. They know it isn't real, but they can rationalize it with the belief that they can help people to an extent, or at least not cause harm, and earn a few bucks in the process. They can be hard to make it work because, and people don't think about this, clients scam you a lot, especially when you're new and eager to get clients. You have to be pretty confident to do it well. Morally, it can be difficult to be okay with what you're doing. If you're completely independent, you can refuse clients who want things you aren't comfortable with. But if you work for a network, you have to take all of the clients no matter how nuts and you have to coordinate some basics and market yourself, which isn't something everyone else can do. I know for a fact that I am not psychic, but I wouldn't say that I scam people. If I had lied and manipulated them for my own personal gain, I would own scamming them. I had a website which offered psychic readings, provided samples of readings I had done in the past, clearly stated it was for entertainment purposes, and offered a 100% refund to any client who was unhappy with the services rendered, no questions asked. Those pretty models in magazines are airbrushed. The burger in the advertisement that looks so delicious is made of wax just for the photo. Society is illusions. I was a service provider with an illusion of psychic ability who provided a service with no intent other than to help people where possible and make a bit of money. If clients were harming themselves, I always refunded their money. I had one client who was losing her home, facing bankruptcy, kept buying readings to find out when it would get better. Every time I refunded their money and told her to change spending habits and her approach to managing money and see a financial counselor, not a psychic. I don't see saying I am a psychic when I am not as a scam per se, but more of a performance, like a clown at a birthday party or a stripper who pretends to be into you. Both of those service providers are normal people with jobs who perform. I feel like I performed. I kept my work pretty classy and believable, no sad stuff, talking to dead people, exploiting poor people, or preying on superstition or fears, and it was mostly people seeking advice or support for love and relationship issues, insecurities, conflicts at work, reassurance for choices they had to make. The kinds of things I would say in my readings were eerily similar to conversations with my friends or family when they seek advice, only instead of, I think, I would say things like, I sense, or I'm feeling that, which are also true statements. Cold reading is insanely easy if you are typically good with people. My mom is a psychic. I've been meaning to tell this story for a long time, but I've never had a place for it. She firmly 100% believes in what she's doing, and to be perfectly honest, I don't know whether there is any validity to it. She's been on television, she's aided in missing persons investigations, and she's founded her own missing persons foundation to help with searches, with boots on the ground and spreading awareness and such. She's an incredibly good, hardworking, honest, and kind-hearted woman. She does what she does purely out of the desire to help people. She does readings and teaches classes to make a living, barely enough to scrape by, and she volunteers a lot of her time to organize searches and the like. She also studies remote viewing under some pretty intense tutelage. Google that shit if you never heard of it. Real or not, it's pretty cool. To be honest, I couldn't tell you whether or not I believe it's real. I lament the possibility that she's been living her whole life as a lie, but I must also admit its existence. That being said, she's gotten many kind words from many people in terms of her abilities, and she's also done some incredibly impressive things with them that are not so easily explained away. I think my mom in particular is not a normal psychic that you hear about. She's a member of an incredibly hardworking underbelly that has methods and training and practice, and a community of instructors and semi-scientific supporters who don't sit around jerking each other off but really want to help others. It's really difficult for me to say one way or another whether or not I believe in her experiences, but I believe even if they were some massively delusional lie she's been living her whole life, I cannot dismiss the good she's done for people and the time and love she's put into her work. Say what you want about psychics, but I won't ever accept that my mom hasn't done some amazing things. I like to dabble in tarot. Tarot readings are not really meant to tell the future. Each card is a visual representation of a theme, stage, or archetype that we all go through in our lives. Each card can be related to any situation in your life. It's useful to gain insight and start looking at the situation in a different way. I do readings for myself to think about every choice and outcome that may happen before I make a decision. To me, being psychic is just being super aware of the situation at hand and being able to discern the right choice from the wrong based on your experience. Though honestly, I have had some very unbelievable experiences. I shuffle the deck after every card is drawn and I pick a random card each time. A few times I can think of, I've drawn the same reading 2 to 3 times in a row. I chalk it up to maybe not shuffling well enough or something, but it's fun to think about. A friend of mine does tarot cards. However, he does say that the present and the future can be changed based on the choices you make. He says the tarot cards are only telling you likely path based on your current choices, whether it's good or bad. He doesn't charge people for readings. He just enjoys doing them for people. He truly believes it, so we respect his beliefs regardless of ours.
I remember when a few family members passed away, certain family members of mine went to a psychic and they did this reading and they kept this cassette tape and they passed it around. And it's like this, in my opinion. Do I think it's real? I don't know. Do I think it's possible? Sure. Do I think that it brings and gives comfort to certain people who need that reassurance? It does. And in that case, it's therapeutic. So if people want to do it or go seek that out, that's their choice, man. Good for them. Skeptics have a fair point, and true believers do too. So respect it.
As someone who knows someone who believes they are psychic, I do not believe they would rip anyone off only because they do not tell anyone except for close family and friends. This person has been known to make some odd predictions that came true. Whether it was coincidence or not, I think it was cool. Now, as someone who met a psychic who actually works, she is such a scam artist. I've worked as a tarot reader in the past. You could say it's a scam. I ask about their situation as they read and then give them good advice, which I back up with cards that can easily be twisted toward any meaning. That said, I think I genuinely help people. I'm sure they've heard the advice I give them from friends and relatives before, but some people seemingly want that extra push. The way I see it, they came to me to read some cards and give generic advice based on the reading. I'm doing them one better and actually caring about their situation and giving real advice based on reason and life experience. Can't say I've ever felt bad about it. I've been to 2 psychics. The first one was horrible, didn't have a clue, and called my boyfriend at the time a Satan worshiper, even after I told her that I would notice if he was slaughtering chickens in our tiny apartment. The second was a Polish woman. Me and a friend went to her home. I think it was like $20. She took the cash, told my friend to go in another room and wait, and never said a single word to me. She used a regular deck of cards. She was amazing, and lots of what she said was true. I really didn't mind paying her because she was that talented. The lady didn't stop talking, never asked me a question, and basically told me my life story, which isn't really unique. I don't know if she was psychic or not, but it was so much fun and entertaining. I love tarot and runes and feel that they are awesome ways to open your mind to things you normally wouldn't think of. I used to go to a card reader regularly, not because I thought it was legit, but because I felt that the cards were a strong psychological prompt and I could let out emotions that didn't come out any other way. It was often more effective than seeing my therapist. As a mental health practitioner, I believe that using a physical representation like tarot cards allows a person to bypass mental blocks and project onto the cards. Psychic? No, it's psychology. I don't bill myself as a psychic, but I do occasional rune readings at Ren fairs when I'm vending on there with my guild. I tell people that it's a bunch of shiny rocks with symbols on them, and I will at very least tell them what the symbols that come up for them mean. Sometimes my intuition adds a little more. I've done some readings where I genuinely don't know where the information came from. I'm not actually that good at reading people, but I've told people relatively specific things about themselves and their situations that were dead on that I would have never guessed on my own. Maybe I'm better than I think I am. Maybe the shiny rocks with symbols on them are magic. Maybe I'm magic. Or maybe it's just a whole lot of coincidences. I tend to believe it's magic because the world is more interesting that way. But I also don't base major decisions on what my runes tell me unless there's a lot of good reasons to choose that path anyway. And I tell people I do readings to do the same. I once had a housemate that ran a successful tarot card website and phone line out of his house. He worked in IT, so I'm pretty sure he didn't believe in any of it. The website was completely hokum. It turns over 3 cards for you for free. You pay money for the last 2 cards to be turned over. He was making about €2,000 a month off that, about $2,700. It was all generated randomly, with not much programming experience needed. I didn't have a problem with that. The phone line he ran, on the other hand, was a nastier business. One night, he and his sister went out to dinner, and the phone rang shortly after they left. It was a woman from the US. She had an appointment for a tarot card reading. I explained that he wasn't here and she should ring back later. I hang up, phone rings in 30 seconds, same woman in obvious distress. He told me I had an appointment. I need his advice. By this time I feel sorry for her. She's obviously in distress, and this guy's making a fool of her. The phone call costs at least $5 a minute. I explained that he went to dinner with his sister, trying to get her to realize she wasn't getting any help from him. She rings back in 5 minutes, more upset than before. I really need to speak with him. I have an appointment. I don't understand. I had to level with her at that point. Look, even if he was here, trust me, he wouldn't be helping you. There was a pause and an "oh" from her. I think she realized that the tarot cards were nonsense. I hope she did. TL, DR. Housemate made a lot of money scamming people via tarot card website and phone line. My grandmother did fake psychic readings when she was younger. I believe around the time my grandfather died. She admits they were fake, but that she would sometimes have moments where there was some truth. A few years ago, when my aunt died, her daughter, she said she didn't want to be at the hospital when she died. So when it came to the point where doctors told us that she only had hours, we didn't tell her grandmother. Literally minutes after she died, we see my grandma looking distraught walking up to us, saying she felt the need to drive to the hospital. She just didn't get there in time. I made a throwaway for this because perhaps it will be downvoted, and I don't like exposing this. I've talked to spirits ever since I was a child, not ghosts. I've never seen them, but I know they exist. Every one of us has a version of ourselves in a spiritual dimension. I go into a trance and talk to them, ask them questions. Sometimes they come to me and warn me of things, other times I must ask. All I need is someone's name and birth date and a personal object, anything really, a button for example, so they can know who I'm talking about. They will find that person's version in the spirit world and check on their condition or ask around whether there is something negative in store for them. I've received warnings. A friend about to go on a trip told me not to let her go, so upon waking I told her and there was a bus crash. Another friend told me she was very sick in a dream. Turns out she was developing Hodgkin's lymphoma. No, they are never wrong, and this is not cold reading or general things. I've been told very specific things too, such as my sister is pregnant of a girl. So I told her to get tested, and of course she had a girl. I had not seen my sister for a couple of months when that happened. When my father died, I felt it, got into a trance and looked for him, and he told me he had just passed and was moving on now. I came back in tears, but I know for a fact that he's in a better place. It's a lifetime of this, with too many examples. Yes, it's real. Yes, I can do it. I'm not from the USA. No, I do not suffer from hallucinations. The advice only comes in dreams, and the answers to questions come in whispers when I place myself in a meditative trance. Nobody knows about this except a few close people. The spirits refuse to tell me anything about myself or my life. I don't know why I can do this. My mother said I used to see and talk to spirits as a very young child, but that hasn't happened in a long time. Not a professional psychic, closet psychic. Runs in the family. At least 2 generations back on my mom's side, maybe more. Not any records on my great-grandmother other than she was Native American, likely Cherokee. I haven't always been closeted. Was pretty open about it when I was younger. Later in life I realized that letting out that little bit of information tends to lead to a lot of wackos bugging you about demons or invading my dreams, and my past life is haunting me. All variety of typical garden paranoia. In addition, it's not something you want to be associated with when pursuing a science degree. Most of the other true psychics I've met do about the same thing around their early 20s. I'm a skeptic, and I believe that 95% of everything claimed to be psychic phenomena is a mix of cold reading, luck, and the general gullibility of the public. 4% have a scientifically supported but poorly understood basis. Hypnosis, emotional trauma causing physical ailments, some of the weirder forms of the placebo effect, etc. And then there's the 1% that really does defy all rational effing explanation. I've observed that some people can pull off divination with more accuracy than a simple cold read and common sense would allow. I was one of those, and specifically trained in cold reading so that I could avoid accidentally doing it. I think that most moderately successful psychics are just spewing cold reads and truly believing that what they're saying has meaning. Hippies tend to talk in rainbow ruses anyway, or phrase the blatantly obvious as some esoteric secret. Very successful psychics are just admirably skilled con artists with a flair for the theatrics. And then there's the real ones, who tend to be rather unpopular. A little logic for you. If you're a skilled psychic that can predict the outcome of future events, then your predictions will be rather ordinary and bland for most people. These people are even likely to be labeled as cold readers, since the actual future generally can be predicted with basic common sense. People don't want to hear that. If they try to pursue that cute girl at work, it's going to result in a few awkward dates and maybe some half-hearted crappy drunk sex. They want to hear that they are star-crossed, soul-bound lovers searching for each other over dozens of past lives, because in one past life he was a samurai warrior that saved her, a virgin geisha, from a dark and evil wizard. Nobody gives a shit about the real answer because it's boring, and they generally have a good idea of what it is already, and often don't want to accept it. People want to feel important. Let me ask you, if everyone's got a bunch of past lives, how come nobody was an illiterate farmer that married a kind of boring and overweight woman and had some bratty kids before dying of dysentery? Or a factory worker that hated his life and took it out on his liver? Or just a plain, totally unexceptional Joe? As someone else said, it's entertainment. That's what people want. They want a show. They want to feel important, and they want someone to justify their fantasies and paranoid delusions. I once got annoyed by this kid that was about as gifted as Brick, and was scaring the muggles by instigating superstition and generally being a creeper. So I gave him some new age crap about how if he kept pursuing magic, he would damage the fibers of reality. Demons will come after you to correct karmic violations of the pact of the ancient fairy lords. Quit now, or Cthulhu will find you and use his mind control to unravel your sanity. It's total bullshit, and he loved it. He started acting it out and getting visions of what I described and just went into his own little delusional fantasy world. And I don't even blame him, because you know what? It was more exciting reality for him than the truth. That he was an acne-ridden fat kid living in his parents' basement with no friend, no job, no life. Hell, his new delusions actually gave him a life, because he made a coven with some new friends that he made when he fed into their delusions of grandeur. TL, DR. Some psychics are genuine, but no one likes them because they correctly predict how your life is going to be boring and shitty. All the money is made by delusional hippies and flamboyant con artists.